Let's talk about something that shakes the very core of what we're conditioned to believe. You've been told over and over again that happiness is the ultimate goal. The phrase "pursue happiness" is embedded in the fabric of our society. But what if I told you that's a lie? That chasing happiness might actually be making you weaker, more fragile, more disconnected from your potential. This isn't just some random idea, it's rooted in the profound and often misunderstood philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche tells us that we should be seeking power, not happiness. And that's where our journey begins today. Power, in Nietzsche's view, isn't what we commonly think of: domination over others or ruthless control. It's far more personal, far more internal. Nietzsche's idea of power, or will to power, is the drive within each of us to overcome, to grow, to constantly become more than we were yesterday. Power is life's engine. It pushes us beyond comfort, beyond happiness, into territories that force us to confront our limits, break through them, and transform. Think about it for a second. How often do we limit ourselves in the pursuit of fleeting happiness? We chase temporary pleasures, hoping they'll make us feel good, and for a brief moment they do. But soon, that feeling fades, and we're left with an emptiness, craving the next hit of dopamine. Nietzsche saw this as a trap, a dangerous cycle of stagnation. Happiness, in his eyes, is not a destination, it's a distraction. So what is power? It's the ability to transcend these limitations, to confront life with courage, not retreat into comfort. It's about facing challenges head-on, embracing struggle, and emerging stronger. Nietzsche wasn't saying that happiness has no value, he's saying that it's not the goal. It's a byproduct of power, of growth, of becoming who you truly are. But ask yourself, how often do you chase happiness at the expense of power? Do you find yourself avoiding difficult situations because they might disrupt your peace, your comfort? Nietzsche would argue that those very situations are where your potential lies. By seeking only happiness, you rob yourself of the opportunity to grow, to become something more. Let's go deeper. Imagine a life where every time you faced a challenge, you didn't run from it. You faced it, embraced the discomfort, and allowed it to shape you. This is what Nietzsche means by power: the willingness to transform through difficulty, not despite it. He believed that the greatest individuals in history didn't seek happiness, they sought power. Not in the sense of political domination, but in the sense of mastering themselves. Now, let's flip this question to you. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be uncomfortable for the sake of growth? When did you last take a risk, knowing it might not make you happy in the moment, but that it would lead to something greater? Nietzsche asks us to confront this fear, to ask ourselves if we are willing to trade temporary happiness for lasting power. But here's the catch. Power isn't always pleasant. In fact, it's often painful. Nietzsche speaks of amor fati, the love of fate. To seek power is to embrace life in all its forms, the highs and the lows. It's to accept that suffering is not an enemy, but a teacher. How many of us run from suffering, hoping that happiness will make us whole? But think about it, have you ever truly grown without facing hardship? Nietzsche's philosophy forces us to confront a harsh truth: we are not here to be comfortable. We are here to evolve. And evolution is messy, it's painful, but it's also the most exhilarating experience we can have. When you embrace power, you stop fearing life's challenges because you realize they are the very things that will make you stronger. You stop seeking the shallow happiness that fades with time and instead seek the deeper, lasting fulfillment that comes from becoming more than you ever thought possible. Let's take a moment to reflect. What are you chasing? What is your life oriented around? Is it happiness or is it power? And when I say power, I'm not talking about some external force, it's the internal power to shape your own destiny. The power to rise above mediocrity, to break free from the comfort zones that keep you small. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't comfortable, but that's the point. It's not meant to be. Now, consider the people you admire most in life. Are they the ones who were always happy, or are they the ones who faced incredible odds, embraced their struggles, and came out the other side transformed? Nietzsche believed that greatness comes not from avoiding pain, but from embracing it, from using it as a tool to forge yourself into something greater. Power, not happiness, is the engine of human progress.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But here's the paradox: the more you seek power, the more you confront life's difficulties, the more deeply fulfilled you become. Happiness, in its shallow form, cannot provide this. True joy comes not from avoiding challenges, but from overcoming them. The satisfaction of knowing you've grown, that you've conquered a part of yourself that once held you back, that's where real happiness lies. And here's where it gets interesting. Nietzsche wasn't anti-happiness. He simply saw it as a byproduct, not a goal. Happiness, when it comes, is the result of power, the result of overcoming. It's what we feel when we've risen above our previous limitations and become something greater. It's the thrill of realizing we've tapped into our potential, that we're living as we were meant to live. But are you ready for that? Are you ready to give up the comforting illusion that happiness is the goal and embrace the journey toward power instead? It's a frightening thought, isn't it? To let go of the safety net of happiness and step into the unknown, into a path that promises struggle, challenge, and growth. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes so powerful it asks us to rethink everything we've been told. It challenges us to question whether we are living for comfort or for greatness. And it's not an easy question to answer, because the path to power is not for everyone. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but it's the only path that leads to true fulfillment. So what will you choose? Will you continue to chase the fleeting moments of happiness, hoping they'll fill the void? Or will you take the harder, but ultimately more rewarding, path to power? Nietzsche forces us to confront this choice, to ask ourselves whether we are willing to live a life of mediocrity or a life of meaning. Now, let's get even deeper. Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch, or the overman, the individual who transcends the limitations of ordinary human existence. The overman doesn't seek happiness. He seeks power. He seeks to rise above the petty concerns of daily life and tap into something far greater. He seeks to create, to transform, to live in alignment with his true potential. Are you on that path? Or are you still clinging to the idea that happiness is the end goal? Nietzsche's challenge to us is clear: if you want to live a life of meaning, you must seek power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. The power to shape your destiny, to overcome the obstacles that stand in your way, to rise above the mundane and reach for greatness. Let's begin with Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, the overman. This is more than just a concept, it's a call to rise above the ordinary, to go beyond what you think is possible for yourself. The overman is not concerned with petty happiness. He sees the world as something to be shaped, not something to be passively accepted. He understands that power is not about domination, but about mastery over oneself, over one's impulses, and over life itself. Now, think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you been swayed by the pursuit of happiness? How often have you made decisions based on short-term pleasure rather than long-term growth? Nietzsche would argue that this is the path of the last man, the antithesis of the overman. The last man seeks only comfort, only pleasure, only the easiest route through life. But here's the problem: that path leads nowhere. It leads to stagnation, to mediocrity, to a life devoid of real meaning. When Nietzsche speaks of power, he's talking about something radically different. Power is about creation. It's about becoming the master of your own destiny, about shaping your reality rather than being shaped by it. But here's the catch: this isn't easy. It requires you to step into the unknown, to confront your fears, your doubts, and your weaknesses. It requires you to take full responsibility for your life, and that's terrifying for most people. But here's the truth: Nietzsche wants us to understand the pursuit of power is what leads to true freedom. When you seek power, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are no longer at the mercy of life's whims. You become the creator of your own reality. You stop looking for happiness in external things, whether it's relationships, success, or material possessions, and start finding fulfillment in the act of becoming more. But how do you do this? How do you take the first step towards seeking power? Nietzsche's answer is clear: you must first break free from the herd. Most people live their lives in accordance with societal norms, following the paths laid out for them by others. They seek approval, they seek validation, and they seek happiness in the eyes of those around them. But Nietzsche saw this as a trap, a prison that keeps you from realizing your full potential. To seek power, you must be willing to walk alone, at least for a time. You must be willing to face the discomfort of isolation, to confront the existential questions that arise when you step outside the safety of the herd. Who am I? What do I truly want? What is my purpose? These are the questions that will guide you on the path to power, but they are also the questions that most people avoid because they are uncomfortable, because they require deep introspection. But here's where it gets interesting: once you begin to ask these questions, once you begin to seek power instead of happiness, everything in your life changes. You stop looking for quick fixes, for easy solutions. You stop settling for mediocrity. You start striving for something greater, something that resonates with your true self. You start becoming the person you were always meant to be. And here's where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes truly revolutionary. He believed that seeking power, not happiness, is what leads to true joy. Not the fleeting, surface-level happiness that most people chase, but a deep, enduring joy that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with your highest potential. This is the paradox of power. By seeking it, you gain not only strength but also fulfillment. You become someone who is not dependent on external circumstances for happiness because you are creating your own reality from within. But this path is not easy, and Nietzsche never pretended that it was. The overman must confront what Nietzsche called the abyss, the dark, frightening aspects of existence. He must face the fact that life is not inherently meaningful, that we must create our own meaning, and that this process is filled with struggle, with doubt, and with pain. But this is precisely what makes the overman powerful. He does not shy away from the darkness, he embraces it. He understands that the very things most people fear, suffering, hardship, failure are the things that lead to growth, to power, to true transformation. Now, ask yourself, are you prepared to face the abyss? Are you ready to embrace the uncertainty of life, to accept that happiness is not something you can chase, but something that comes as a result of living powerfully? This is the challenge Nietzsche presents to all of us, to stop settling for comfort, for mediocrity, and to start seeking something far more profound. But here's the deeper question: what would your life look like if you stopped chasing happiness and started seeking power? How would your decisions change? How would your relationships evolve? Nietzsche believed that most of us are held back by our fear of suffering, our fear of the unknown. But what if, instead of running from those fears, you confronted them head-on? What if you embraced the struggles of life as opportunities for growth, rather than obstacles to your happiness? This is the key to Nietzsche's philosophy, the realization that life's challenges are not to be avoided, but to be embraced. They are the crucible through which we become stronger, wiser, and more powerful. The overman does not seek to escape suffering, he seeks to transcend it. He understands that true power comes from within, from the ability to face life's hardships with courage and resilience. But here's the question: are you ready to make that shift? Are you ready to stop seeking happiness as your ultimate goal and start seeking power instead? Nietzsche believed that this was the only path to true freedom, to true fulfillment. But it requires a radical rethinking of everything we've been taught. It requires us to let go of the idea that happiness is something we can achieve through external means, and instead realize that it is a byproduct of living powerfully. Think about your own life. Where are you seeking happiness in ways that are holding you back? Where are you avoiding the challenges that could lead to your growth? Nietzsche's philosophy asks us to confront these questions, to stop living passively, and to start taking control of our destiny. But remember, this is not a quick fix. Seeking power is not about instant gratification. It's about long-term growth, about becoming the best version of yourself through the process of overcoming. It's about embracing the journey, not just the destination. So we've explored the first step in Nietzsche's philosophy, the realization that seeking power, not happiness, is the key to true fulfillment. But this journey leads us to an even deeper and more terrifying concept: the abyss. Nietzsche famously said, "If you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." What does this mean? And why is it so critical to the idea of becoming the overman? The abyss represents the existential void, the profound nothingness that lies at the heart of existence. It's the place where all of our illusions about life, about purpose, about ourselves are stripped away. It's where we confront the harsh reality that life, in and of itself, has no inherent meaning. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding the abyss, filling their days with distractions, with shallow pursuits, with the quest for momentary happiness. But Nietzsche challenges us to do the opposite. He asks us to confront the abyss, to face it head-on, because only in doing so can we truly understand ourselves and the nature of reality. Now, this might sound terrifying, and it is. The abyss is not a comfortable place to be. It forces us to question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world around us. It brings us face to face with our own mortality, with the fact that life is finite, that we are small in the grand scheme of the universe. But here's the paradox: it's in confronting the abyss that we find true strength. It's by staring into the void that we discover what we are truly made of. Think about it. When was the last time you allowed yourself to sit with your deepest fears? When was the last time you confronted the uncomfortable truths about your life? about who you are, about what you want. Most of us avoid these questions because they're painful. But Nietzsche believed that it's only through this kind of radical self-confrontation that we can grow. The overman is not someone who avoids the darkness, he is someone who embraces it, who uses it as fuel for his transformation. This brings us to a crucial point. Seeking power is not about avoiding suffering, but about transforming it. Nietzsche believed that suffering is an inevitable part of life, but it's how we respond to that suffering that defines us. The overman sees suffering as a necessary step on the path to greatness. He understands that every challenge, every hardship is an opportunity to grow stronger, to become more resilient, to refine his character. And this is where the pursuit of power diverges so radically from the pursuit of happiness. When you seek happiness, you are constantly trying to avoid pain. You are trying to create a life that is free from discomfort, free from struggle. But the problem with this approach is that it's impossible. Life is inherently filled with challenges, with setbacks, with disappointments. If your goal is to avoid these things, you are setting yourself up for failure. But if your goal is to seek power to grow stronger through adversity, then every challenge becomes a stepping stone on the path to your own evolution. But let's take this even further. Nietzsche believed that in order to truly become the overman, you must not only confront the abyss, you must embrace it. You must learn to find meaning in the very things that most people avoid. You must learn to find power in the struggle, joy in the hardship, and freedom in the realization that life has no inherent meaning except the meaning you create for yourself. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes deeply liberating, but also deeply unsettling. Most people live their lives according to predetermined scripts. They follow societal norms, they pursue conventional goals, they seek happiness in the ways they've been taught. But Nietzsche tells us that all of this is an illusion. There is no predetermined meaning to life. There is no external source of happiness. The only thing that matters is the meaning you create through your actions, through your will to power. Now, here's a question for you. What would your life look like if you stopped seeking meaning from external sources? What would happen if you stopped chasing happiness in the way society tells you to, and instead focused entirely on becoming the most powerful version of yourself? This doesn't mean power in the sense of control over others. It means power over yourself, over your own mind, your own emotions, your own life. Nietzsche's philosophy asks us to take radical responsibility for our existence. It asks us to stop blaming external circumstances for our unhappiness and to start realizing that everything we need is already within us. The abyss is terrifying because it forces us to let go of the illusion that someone or something else will give our lives meaning. But once we let go of that illusion, we find a kind of freedom that is unimaginable to most people. Here's the real challenge. Are you willing to embrace that freedom? Are you willing to let go of the comforting lies you've been told about happiness, about success, about what it means to live a good life? Nietzsche believed that most people aren't. He believed that most people would rather live in comfortable ignorance than confront the terrifying freedom that comes with seeking power. But here's the thing, if you're watching this video, you're not like most people. You're someone who is willing to ask the deep questions, who is willing to confront uncomfortable truths. You're someone who is ready to step into the abyss and come out stronger on the other side. And that's exactly what Nietzsche's philosophy is about. It's about becoming more than you ever thought possible. It's about realizing that the pursuit of happiness is a distraction, a way of keeping you small. The pursuit of power, on the other hand, is a way of stepping into your true potential. But this journey isn't for the faint of heart. It requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, to face the fears, the doubts, the insecurities that have been holding you back. It requires you to take full responsibility for your life, to stop blaming external circumstances, and to start realizing that you have the power to shape your reality. But here's the good news: once you embrace this path, everything in your life will change. You will no longer be a victim of circumstance. You will no longer be at the mercy of life's whims. You will become the creator of your own destiny, the master of your own fate. And in doing so, you will discover a kind of fulfillment that is far deeper than happiness. You will discover what it means to live with purpose, with meaning, with power.